Okay, we are moving right along. We are now into case briefing. We've briefly talked about an overview of the different sources of law, different types of law, categories of law, the case itself, and we're going to talk about how to brief a case. And first of all, what I want to talk about is the final judgment rule. Generally, a plaintiff or defendant cannot appeal rulings of the trial court while this case is still ongoing. Okay, that's the general rule. That's really what we're going to focus on. Summary judgment, which we talked about in the last video, where the court goes ahead and enters judgment because there's no real dispute over issues, is a final judgment on the claim. If not all the claims have been resolved, we get summary judgment on some claims, but not the others. The plaintiff has to wait till the whole case is over, but still can appeal that summary judgment. Okay? The appellate court is there to determine whether the trial court made a mistake in the interpretation of the law or the application of the facts to the law. Okay? That is their main job. Did this trial court, okay, the court that we originally filed, make a decision that was not in accordance with the law? Or did they apply the facts in this case that was not in accordance with the law? Did they make a bad ruling on evidence? Did they make a bad ruling on any other procedural issue? Now, you can argue on appeal that the evidence was insufficient to meet the elements, but here's the deal. The appellate courts will not change the facts. It's not reweighing the evidence, and no new evidence is brought in. So unless the court allowed a judgment where an element just never was even made, but the jury for some reason or the judge went ahead and said they made their claim, you are not going to prevail on this really, because they're not going to reweigh the evidence. That you can't say, well, the court said that this person's testimony, or it seems like they weighed this testimony more than this. They are going to give deference to the fact finder, which is the judge or the jury, depending on who determined the case. So when we file an appeal, the appellant is the one filing the appeal, and the appellee is the party opposing the appeal. It gets a little bit tricky with the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, because they call the appellant the petitioner, which the person appealing may not be the same as the original petitioner. So you have to make sure you read the case very thoroughly to figure out, who actually is appealing. But generally in state courts or many courts, they'll say the appellant instead of calling them the petitioner, so they don't confuse the original petitioner. So a court opinion sets out the judgment and its reasoning. So we have an issue that comes before us as the court, and we're going to write out in an opinion what our judgment is and why it is. And that's called the majority opinion. That's our decision, okay? You may then, in your opinion, have a concurrence, which means, hey, I'm a judge. I'm going to write that I agree with all of us on this issue, because you have to have a majority of the panel. But I agree because of this, not because of this. Or I think we should think about this too. Or you could have a dissenting opinion that says, I'm the one that said no. So when you have a decision, you're going to have a count, and the count has to be by majority. It depends what level you're at and what the count is. Appellate courts will generally, here in the state of Kansas, will have a panel of 3, and our Supreme Court can have up to a 5-person panel, depending. So it just depends. The opinions in a case are published together. So you'll see the main opinion, then you'll see dissent, then you'll see that. It's all in one major opinion. And before that, the reporter of the decision has summarized this. And usually the court, there's a judge who is responsible for writing each opinion. They rotate. And that judge will usually from the bench during the court session kind of give a summary of the case. And then a court reporter of decisions prepares the syllabus, and it's kind of just an outline. You're not going to see in your briefing the syllabus because we're going to actually brief the opinions. Now, case brief is a written summary of the court opinion. We want to brief so we know what it is. It helps us understand what's going on. And if we ever, if you're a lawyer or a paralegal, you'll prepare a case brief so you can let the other lawyers know. There are 7 components, and I, for the first brief, have broken them down into 2, so it will make it easier. Okay, the facts. The facts are basically what got us to court. Okay, why are we here and who sued who? Okay, the procedural history is what happened when it got there. What did the court decide? And did it go to did it then, was it appealed from a trial court to an appellate court? And now we're at the Supreme Court. Where are we in all of this? And I'll show you with this example. Somehow this 4, ignore it because it's really down here, issue. And the issue is, what are we bringing to the court to try to resolve? So we're not going to focus on part 2 yet. We're just going to focus on the first part. So I've broken the case down to these 3, into this component for part 1. So if you want to follow along then, in this case, Boy Scouts of America versus Dale, we're going to go through it. So this is a very annotated version of this case, meaning if you were to pull this case up, you are going to get a huge opinion, okay? I've taken it out to a single issue so we can address the issue we want to address. So petitioners are the Boy Scouts of America and the Mammoth Council, a division of the Boy Scouts of America, collectively the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts is a private, not-for-profit organization engaged in instilling its system of values in young people. The Boy Scouts assert that homosexual conduct is inconsistent with its values it seeks to instill. Respondents is James Dale, a former Eagle Scout whose adult membership in the Boy Scouts was revoked when the Boy Scouts learned that he is an avowed homosexual and gay rights activist. The New Jersey Supreme Court held that New Jersey's public accommodation law requires that the Boy Scouts readmit Dale. This case presents the question whether applying the New Jersey's public accommodation law in this way violates the Boy Scouts' First Amendment right to expressive association. James Dale entered scouting in 1978 at the age of 8 by joining Mammoth Council's Cub Scout Pack 142. Dale became a Boy Scout in 1981 and remained a Scout until he turned 18. By all accounts, Dale was an exemplary Scout. In 1988, he achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, one of Scouts' highest honors. Dale applied for adult membership in the Boy Scouts in 1989. The Boy Scouts approved his application for that of Assistant Scoutmaster of Troop 73. Around the same time, Dale left home to attend Rutgers University. After arriving at Rutgers, he acknowledged to himself and others that he was gay. He is gay. He quickly became involved with and eventually became the co-president of, I don't know what the first word is because my head's in the way, but University Lesbian Gay Alliance. In 1990, Dale attended a seminar addressing the psychological and health needs of lesbian and gay people, or whatever it says on your thing. A newspaper covering the event interviewed Dale about his advocacy of homosexual teenagers' need for gay role models. In early 1990, the newspaper published the interview and Dale's photograph over a caption identifying him as the co-president of the Lesbian Gay Alliance. Later that month, Dale received a letter from Mammoth Council Executive James Kay revoking his adult membership. Dale wrote to Kay requesting the reason for Mammoth Council decision. Kay responded by the letter that the Boy Scouts, quote, specifically forbid membership to homosexuals. In 1992, Dale filed a complaint against the Boy Scouts in the New Jersey Superior Court. The complaint alleged that the Boy Scouts had violated New Jersey's public accommodation statute and its common law by revoking Dale's membership based solely on his sexual orientation. New Jersey's public accommodation statute prohibits, among other things, discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation in places of public accommodation. The New Jersey Superior Court's Chancery Division granted summary judgment in favor of the Boy Scouts. The court concluded that the Boy Scouts' position in respect of active homosexuality was clear and held that the First Amendment freedom of expressive association prevented the government from forcing the Boy Scouts to accept Dale as an adult leader. The appellate division rejected the Boy Scouts' federal constitutional claims. The New Jersey Supreme Court affirmed the judgment of the appellate division. It held that the Boy Scouts violated the laws of Dale's membership based on his avowed homosexuality. We granted the Boy Scouts petition for certiorari to determine whether the application of New Jersey a public accommodation violated the First Amendment. Okay, so this is what we have, and I'm going to break everything down for you and help you. Okay, so first of all, when you have a case, you're going to have the case citation. And that's going to be the first thing. Boy Scouts of America versus Dale, 530 U.S. 640 2000 is a case citation. What that includes is following it is going to tell me where I can find in a book of reports this report. And it's going to give me the volume number of a court reporter and a page number that it begins on. And then it's going to give me an issue of the court. And this is the U.S. Supreme Court. You do not have to worry about case citations. I'm just giving you background on what this is. What is important is this tells you when it was issued. So this was an issued opinion in 2000. Okay. Here I know that the appellant and the petitioner are going to be the same because it's the U.S. Supreme Court. So it doesn't matter who brought the suit in the original, right? This is the appellant / petitioner for this court, which is where are we? The U.S. Supreme Court. Okay. Now, what we have here when we first talked, well, and then we have the respondent, right? Which is going to be who? The boy, I'm sorry. Yes, Dale. Dale is the respondent. So Dale brought the initial suit against the Boy Scouts, but they ruled in Dale's favor. So the Boy Scouts are not appealing. They're appellant petitioner. Dale is respondent appellee. Okay? Little confusing, but just keep in mind our original petitioner who sued, and then whoever brings it up on appeal is the appellant, but the U.S. Supreme Court then renames them the petitioner. Okay? What you need to know is who's doing what at what court, really. Okay? So, the facts of the case are through here. Tells us what happened, right? What is the issue? A lot of times the court is going to say, we must determine the issue, or this is what we have to decide, or the question before us. And that's what it did in here. Now, when you write your issue, you need to write it in your own words. You need to make sure that you're not just copying and pasting this, whether applying New Jersey's public accommodation law in the way violates the Boy Scouts' First Amendment right of expressive association. That's what the court's trying to figure out. That's the issue. But you are going to need to put that in your own words. Okay? Now, we've got more facts. The facts are, how did this get to this point? So we got background facts, but this needs to be in there too. What happened? Okay? You don't put all of this, and you're going to see when I tell you how I summarize the facts. But this is telling us, and then it's telling us who filed the original lawsuit, right? Dale, right? Because he said that they were violating what? The public accommodation statute. Now, sometimes you're going to see after this APP 137. Actually, in the original opinion, you're going to see almost after every sentence, you're going to see some kind of citation, but those have been removed because otherwise it's very overwhelming. But there's some that have been just left in there. And that's because when you appeal, you have to cite to everything that was in the record, and you have to cite to any law. So when he's saying, wait a second, you violated the public accommodation statute, right? Which says that you cannot discriminate. Then he has to cite the actual, or they have to cite what they're being sued for. Okay? Trial court ruling. is the first thing you're going to say. It's going to say the trial court or this court did this. What did they do? They granted summary judgment of favor of the Boy Scouts. They concluded that Boy Scouts' position was clear and that they had a right to freedom of expression. That's what the trial court, the original court, did. But on appeal, the appellate division rejected their constitutional claim. So the appellate court reversed. It rejected their claim. And then the New Jersey Supreme Court affirmed the appellate division. So where are we? You got to think about it. It was in favor of Boy Scouts, but appellate court rejected it, said nope, in favor of Dale, and the Supreme Court affirmed the New Jersey, so we're still in favor of Dale, right? And that's why now the Boy Scouts are saying, hey, U.S. Supreme Court, one higher up, can you take this? And so they granted the Boy Scouts petition for cert, which is basically a petition for cert is discretionary. Hey, we want you to hear this issue because it's an issue of importance. And again, they tell us why, to determine whether the application of New Jersey's public accommodation law violated the First Amendment. Okay, this is our first section, our first part. So this is what it would look like. Facts of the case. You want to synthesize those, but to the important facts of how we got here, okay? So mine, when the Boy Scouts of America discovered the longtime Scout member, James Dale, was gay, it revoked his membership. The Boy Scouts, a private not-for-profit organization engaged, whose mission, I don't know what engaged is, sorry, whose mission is to teach its system of values to the youth, reason that the Boy Scouts specifically forbid membership to homosexuals. Dale sued the Boy Scouts, claiming that its reason for revoking his membership violated New Jersey's public accommodation statute and common law because the revocation was based only on his sexual orientation. This tells me what was going on that caused the lawsuit, who sued who, and for what. Okay, I don't even need to know petitioner or appellant. I just need who sued who for what. Procedural history. The trial court found that according to the First Amendment, freedom of expressive association, the Boy Scouts could not be forced to accept Dale as a member. The New Jersey appellate court reversed the trial court, and the New Jersey Supreme Court affirmed. So the United States Supreme Court granted the Boy Scouts petition for review or cert. Your last sentence is always going to be, so this is where we are. So this is what the original court said. If there's any courts in between, what they said, and this is where we're at. You may not have. You may be just reading one level of appellate review, and you just have the trial court said this, and the appellate court, this is before the appellate court now, okay? So then, in your own words, what is the issue? Does New York public accommodations law violate the First Amendment if it requires an organization to accept homosexuals when the mission of the organization is contrary to the acceptance? So this is how you want to do your first part of your brief. There is a rubric that is attached to your brief, so please take a chance to look at that as well. If you have any questions or need any help or any concerns, please reach out to me. We can do a meeting. We can work this out. Just reach out with any questions you have. And good luck. The next video we will be watching will be on, I believe, Chapter 2.